9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry, and Liberty Lori will be joining us shortly. This is already season 2, episode 7 of Restore Freedom Weekly, so thank you for joining us today. Today, our topic is how to adequately represent yourself in municipal ordinance violation hearings. Hey, if you're lucky enough that your municipality hasn't given you any trouble so far, great, but I can guarantee you it will happen to you, or at least that you will know someone very well who is having issues with municipal governments trying to regulate unconstitutionally. So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll into this. So, is your municipality bullying you with unconstitutional regulation? If so, do you have thousands of dollars to hire an attorney to fight back against unconstitutional municipal regulations? I'm guessing not. Well, today we're going to learn how to fight back adequately on your own without needing to rely on an attorney to help you in these situations. All right, so as always, on Tuesday, we post our Tuesday true or false question of the week. This week, we've done it a little bit different, where we wanted to focus a little bit of our efforts a little bit better, be a little bit more efficient and effective and purposeful with our time. In fact, this goes back to what I've been encouraging each of you to do, because those of you who are either on the one side where you're like, holy cow, I never knew there was this much going on. I'm a new freedom fighter. This is all super overwhelming. I don't know where to begin. Or you've been in the freedom fight like me for years, and man, maybe you're just getting exhausted and you're starting to feel overwhelmed just because you've been doing it for so long and there's so much to deal with. Regardless of which side you might be on in that example there, you need to be able to, take care of yourself, and you need to be able to make the freedom fight manageable for you. What does that mean? Well, like we talked about in the last Wednesday Way to Get Involved Challenge of 2022, you need to narrow down your freedom fight, at least for now. So for 2023, pick three freedom fighting topics that you will focus on throughout the year, and don't go beyond that because it will become overwhelming. But what else do you need to do? Well, be the most efficient you can with your time. Now, for us, that means as far as getting our message out there and engaging you and getting you plugged into what's going on and issues with our government and our Constitution and the law. It means for me that I need to be more purposeful and only hitting on the social media platforms where we're seeing the most activity, whether it's something I want to go with or not. So for example, YouTube, we've gotten a new, I don't know, 3 or 4,000 followers on our YouTube channel alone in the last couple of weeks. And we regularly have people answering the true or false question of the week, our polls, commenting on posts that I make on the YouTube community platform, etc. So as much as I don't want to be involved with big tech and all the censorship platforms, hey, right now, that's where you guys are mostly seeing us. So we also have a lot of engagement on a regular basis on the Telegram platform, but not as much for our true or false question of the week on the other platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, Truth Social. There's some, but at any rate, if you're on one of the other platforms and you've been wanting to take a chance at our true or false question of the week, or you've been participating in those and want to continue, I'm going to invite you, just join us over on Telegram or YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, there you go. It's right there. It's already convenient for you. If you hate all those big social media platforms, then check us out on Telegram. Our true or false question of the week is always posted on our Restore Freedom page there. So, and if you need the link to those, I'm sure Lori, when she pops in, Lori will probably put the link directly to our Telegram channel and our YouTube community right in the description of today's video, or in the comments today of today's video, so you can check that out. But in the meantime, today's true or false question of the week: you cannot appeal from municipal ordinance violation hearings. Their decisions are final. True or false? Now I'm going to pause there for a brief moment. Oh, I was going to show Lori, but she's backstage, but she's hiding. She has her camera off, so I guess there's no point in bringing her in. And it looks like, oh, maybe. Let's see. Lori, can you hear us? Oh, your microphone. Let's see. Can I there you go. Are you there? Do we have you?
Yep.
Okay. There's a little bit of a lag. I'm not sure.
Do you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. I can hear you. There's just a little bit of a lag. I'm not sure if that's something everybody else will notice, or something that my computer's having fun with. Who knows? But so you're there. Welcome. Thank you for joining the party today. By the way, thank you to John on YouTube for joining us. This is a public service. Always great to see you. Let's see. We have a question already. What do you do when you find out they decided to change the ordinance without going through the commissioners? And I'm assuming that would be if it's a city ordinance, that somebody at the city is trying to change an ordinance without having the city council or city commission vote on that. That's, you can't do. That's just a no-no. I don't care where you are. The only people that can make laws are in the legislative bodies. That is a constitutional guarantee to us. And so if they're trying to do that, then it's void on its face, just like executive orders that try to regulate the people. So with that being said, Lori, is there anything that you wanted to share with us today before I expand our true or false, or excuse me, our slideshow here and go from there?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, if you can, I know you're having some technical difficulties this morning or today, but if you can, I was telling people that we'd have you throw right in the chat the link to the Telegram and YouTube community and the Telegram channel, so that people can see, they can follow that link to go over to do the true or false question of the day if they would like to do that. All right. Sure. So thanks, Lori. Hop on back in if there's questions I'm overlooking or anything else as usual. So
sounds good.
All right, now you go to timeout. Okay. That's her favorite part. So, all right. So, okay. Oh, so preparing for municipal zoning violation hearings, how to adequately represent yourself in municipal ordinance violation hearings. So number one, we need to understand the constitutional framework, right? Number two, you need to do your homework. Number three, you need to roll your sleeves up, get some work done. And number four, you need to garner support for your cause. And we're going to get into all those. So first of all, understanding that constitutional framework. Yes, and if you haven't guessed it, my favorite colors are teal. And well, Restore Freedom's color has always been royal purple. So at any rate, we'll continue that theme all the way through. We have allowed ourselves to be trained into thinking that we have to prove that we have permission before we take any kind of action, and to allow the government to do whatever it wants unless we bear the burden of proving that it does not have the authority to take that particular action. Like we have to show, oh, well, here in the Constitution it says they can't do this or that. Let's think about that for a minute. So I have acquired legal ownership in my home and surrounding land. Well, my husband and I, okay? The government has no legal right to ownership in any portion of this land, with no alloidal title or not, as the discussions involved this weekend at a freedom fighting meeting I was at. But at any rate, I have a general warranty deed. On that deed, the government has no legal right in ownership at all to that property. I don't have to prove that I have permission to occupy or use my property before every single time I want to use it. When the city tries to stop me from using my own property in a way that doesn't cause harm to anyone else, nor does it stop them from using their own property, I I don't have to sit by idly and allow such blatant overreaching until I can prove to just the right person, through just the right procedure, exactly how they don't have the authority to do that. All right, so, and I am glad that Melanie joins my comments here. Melanie on YouTube says that teal rocks. It is my absolute favorite color, so I'm glad when people agree. All right, so let me see here. All right. Okay, and it looks like, oh, she was able to share the actual link to the exact post. So Liberty Lori has shared for us the link to not only our Telegram channel, but it looks like that's going to take you right to the true or false question of the week within Telegram. So, all right. So back to the slides. Okay, so we get our rights from God, not the government. That is the most basic thing you ever need to realize in any problem that you're ever experiencing with the government at all. Whether you have, I have some people that approached me this weekend that have criminal matters that are pending for being First Amendment auditors. I have people that call me all the time about being, harassed or having consequences brought to them by being a whistleblower, or a wide variety of things that they're dealing with. Maybe it actually stems from a custody or parenting time dispute, or a divorce case. The thing that we need to start with is to remind ourselves constantly that we get our rights from God, not the government. Our rights are to be exercised unabridged, uninfringed, unviolated, undenied, undeprived, unabused, and unusurped. And for those of you who might just be joining us on a platform, the slideshow I'm showing you today is always going to be available in the Thursday Constitution segment recap. The link for this slideshow will be in the description of that. And for those of you that are joining us later on the podcasting platforms, keep in mind that even though on Tuesdays I'm only going over the overview, essentially the conclusions of these statements, and I'm not telling you where I'm getting all this from, you can always check that out in the Thursday slideshow and be able to see exactly all the places that these things are being cited in, or cited from. So at the very least, all of that means, as far as our rights go, that I get to utilize my God-given liberties without first seeking permission from any government entity. It is only if in the exercise of my rights that I begin to trample upon the exercise of your rights that the government gets to step in. But the government doesn't have the right to simply just step in whenever and however it sees fit. Why? Well, we need to go back to the fact that the government has no rights. So for those of you that have been in the freedom fight for a long time and you've been arguing states' rights, smaller federal government. Okay, smaller federal government, yes. Smaller state government, yes. But most importantly, government at any level, including the states, have no rights. If you think they do, please take a look at the 9th and 10th Amendments again. All right, we the people created our Constitution, and therefore our very form of government, state level, federal level, you name it. Our government only has the powers then that we have specifically delegated to it. Okay, we need to remember also that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that legal hierarchy from top to bottom as far as the interplay between state statutes and federal statutes and the Constitution, municipal charters, you name it. So what does all this mean, though? It means that government cannot act unless there is a specific power granted to it in the Constitution. Government is prohibited from doing anything that violates the U.S. or state constitutions. And also remember that every government official is sworn to take an oath. So for those of you who might be dealing with any number of zoning violations, right? We have a friend in Barry County, Michigan, who has talked about the, I think we had him on a show. We had him on one of our episodes last year talking about the case of his friend who I think also was on the show with us. Now I can't remember if it was just a meeting I had with them like by Zoom or something, or if it was, I think we actually had him on an episode, the both of them. But at any rate, they were talking about the issue where he had political signs in his yard, and his township or city, it was the city, said, you can't have more than 4 signs in your yard. And he said, oh, really? So he put 18 signs in his yard. And then they said, oh, well, you can't have 18 signs in your yard. And he said, oh, really? Well, I'm going to put 50 signs in my yard. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but that's basically how it went. And so they've issued him citations, and the whole thing is in trial. He's in court fighting for his rights there. But the point being that, what is their main justification, right? Again, we don't need to prove, we need to train ourselves, we need to train the government, we need to train the public and everyone around us that we don't need to prove that we have a right to do something. We need for everybody to realize the government has to prove that it has the right to, or the power, the authority is the proper wording, that they have the authority to take certain action. They have to prove that authority. Otherwise, if they don't have the authority, they can't act. So think about all those liberty infringements found in state law or municipal code. And if you think that they're justified on the basis of public health, safety, or welfare, let's pause on that for a minute. That's one of the most popular justifications that people have, right? Certainly we saw that through COVID, but in any situation, for decades and decades, we've seen court cases and legislatures and everything, government officials talking about the public health, public safety, public welfare, or general welfare, right? If you think that those actually are founded as a good grounds within the Constitution itself, you need to reread the Constitutions, because that justification based on those 3 things, or any one of those 3 things, is not there. I'm going to not talk about this specifically this week. We've talked about it in prior weeks, but I left the slides in there so you could check this out on your own time on Thursday, or even take a look back at the prior slides from prior weeks. But that term welfare doesn't cover what you think it covers in the Constitution. And that word is only in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, twice. It's not all over like they would make you think it is. What about public safety? Shoot, I took it down just to the word safety, and that's only in the U.S. Constitution 1 time. As far as the state constitution, again, we've talked about that as well. I left that in, but it doesn't cover the grounds that people think it does for justifying all these ridiculous government regulations, even at the local level, where people often think that the most regulation should be happening, the most government action should be happening at the local level. Yes and no. Government regulating the government needs to happen the most at the federal level, and then also continue to go all the way down. Government regulating the people, I would never argue, needs to happen the most at any level, because really, why should we be advocating for the government at any level to be regulating us? But look at the term health. That word health, you can keep looking and look again and then look some more. It is nowhere in the U.S. Constitution. It's in our Florida state constitution a staggering 27 times. It's in the Michigan Constitution a handful of times, but nowhere does it give justification for any of these common types of issues that we're seeing. And this next slide is specifically talking about the state of Florida, but it applies in the state of Michigan because the Constitution analysis is the same. And I've provided that to you guys before in a lot of issues, slides, and court documents that you have access to right on our resources tab of our website, etc. But whether you're looking at the U.S. Constitution or you're looking at your state constitution, think about it this way. And this part is the example from the wording of the state constitution preamble in Florida. But we, the people, our entire state constitution was established because we, the people of the state of Florida, were grateful to Almighty God for our constitutional liberty. And we wanted to make sure that we secured its benefits. That's written right in the preamble. If we wanted to create a form, structure, and set of definitions for government power to ensure our public health, public safety, and general welfare, we would have done that. But we didn't do that. We didn't. So, wow, we got a lot of comments in here. So, all right. Melanie, yes, we are glad to find you, or glad that you have found us as well. All right. So I am scrolling through. Oh, this Joe on Facebook. Most federal laws are unconstitutional. I'm going to take that and raise you on that. Okay. I'm going to go all in and say most laws at any level are unconstitutional. State, federal, local, most laws are unconstitutional. And at this stage in the game, I'm going to say I'd be willing to bet 90% or more are unconstitutional at any level. Okay. Love Lori's comment. She's been hanging out with me for too long, I guess. But remember, if it's unconstitutional, it's void on its face. We don't have to wait for a judge to tell us that. And Joe, and another good comment on Facebook, the Constitution should be taught in schools. It should be taught a lot more, even if it is in some schools, it is still taught with that. We need to be teaching it more, definitely. So, all right. So moving on. What is in the Constitution, right? Not public health, safety, welfare, not in the way that they're talking about, but what is there? Right in Article 6 is the oath of state legislators and other government officials to defend the U.S. Constitution. They have to do that, okay? And just another slide reemphasizing the requirements there. These are just some. I mean, there's a plethora. Even just within Michigan and Florida, there's tons more than I even put on this slide here. But no matter what state you're in, you have to take an oath to uphold the U.S. and state constitutions if you're serving in any level of state or local government. Also important to realize we can't pick and choose which parts of the Constitution that we want to follow, nor can we choose to only follow the Constitution when it's most convenient for us. Now, we're talking about today representing yourself in municipal ordinance violation settings. So let's kind of bring that all in, right, from a different perspective. The federal government only has the powers which we delegate to it in the U.S. Constitution. The state government only has the powers delegated to it in the U.S. or state constitutions, again, that are not prohibited to it by either of those constitutions. And the local government only has the powers delegated to it in the state constitution, as no powers are delegated to local governments in the U.S. Constitution. Okay? So no local government can point to the U.S. Constitution to say, oh, here's our authority to do. Nope. But they do have to point to the state constitution to show that there was some sort of authority granted there in the first place. All right. So what about city and village government? If you're looking at the Michigan Constitution, this is just a slide that I grabbed from a prior show that we did. We went into full detail in prior episodes on this, but the local governments in Michigan, they have the power to adopt resolutions and ordinances relating to municipal concerns, municipal property, like water treatment plants or things of that nature, and municipal government, subject to the Constitution and to state law. Now, in Florida, municipalities have the power to conduct municipal government, perform municipal functions, and render municipal services, and to exercise any power for municipal purposes. And if you want to look at really what does that mean, well, in other words, a municipality's powers in any state, it's going to boil down to this. It's going to provide, it's going to be to provide infrastructure, waterways, roadways, utilities, etc., and to protect our individual liberties so that in my exercise of my rights, I'm not interfering with your exercise of your rights. And municipal powers, can they supersede individual rights? No. Those advocating for big government at the local government level, no. There should be no big government at any level. Okay, so now that we understand that constitutional framework, when you're defending yourself, if you've been issued a summons or a citation or whatever from your local municipality, right? And you're like, crap, now they're trying to come after me. What do you need to do to represent yourself adequately? Aside from understanding that constitutional framework, you need to do your homework, okay? It's going to be a lot of time and effort involved. It simply is. But if it's worth fighting for, then it's worth fighting for, right? That's up to you to decide. So research ahead of time what the procedures are, what the kind of case it is, how how are they required to serve you? Let's pause on that for a minute. The city of Ormond Beach, those of you who have been following me for a little while know that the city of Ormond Beach has decided that they want to take me on and bring me into their court and say that I am violating municipal ordinances about my fences, my pavers, and my 2 shipping containers that I have because we don't have a garage. So they decided that they would try to put a sign out in my yard without trying to personally serve me first or give me 30 days of certified mail for me to pick up certified mail at the post office or wherever first. Guess what? I'm not a Florida licensed attorney, but I'm not an idiot either. Okay. And this goes to show you guys, I didn't go to law school down here. I went to elementary school in Florida. I went to middle school down here. I started high school down here, but I didn't go to college down here. I didn't go to law school down here. I didn't take the bar down here. I'm just like you, an average everyday person, just a typical American. When I moved down here, that's all I am to the state of Florida. That's all they are to me, right? So when it comes to knowing what's involved, I just did my homework, right? And they have to serve you a certain way. They have to serve you in these types of situations. They have to serve you, I think it's 162.12 is the Florida statute, where it talks about that they have to serve you by personal service or by certified mail, and they have to give you up to 30 days to pick it up before they attempt to serve you by publication or by posting signs in your yard or whatever. And these guys jumped right to, before they, gave 30 days at the post office with the certified mail. They've never attempted to personally serve me. They posted it in my yard on the other side of the yard, on the other side of the sidewalk, and not even facing my house so that I could see it. And they posted it while I was home. They posted it for the public to see towards the street. Really? Like that's about giving me notice of a hearing? No, that's about you being bullies and trying to embarrass and harass me. So I let them know kindly that they have not followed the law. So at any rate, and things have been, there's been a lot more with that, but you need to do your research. You need to find out what kind of case that they have brought against you. How are they required to serve you? How are you required to respond? What are you required to bring to this hearing? What are the procedures for the hearing itself? And what are the procedures for appealing the decision? You need to know that going into it, because you should probably assume that if it's at the local level, it's going to be some sort of quasi-judicial or administrative hearing. And it's not even going to be, typically it's not even a normal judge, right? It's an attorney or somebody else that's just a special magistrate. At any rate, the chances are good that when it comes to the Constitution, they're an idiot. I mean, not to be disrespectful, but that's just the truth. Most of them have no freaking clue about the law or the Constitution. They're there to do a job, just like all the other pencil pushers and paper pushers around at the city hall, right? They're there just to do a job, not to actually make sure the Constitution is being followed, even though that is their oath. They can't serve in that role without that oath. But just go into it knowing you're probably going to lose at that first round and you're going to have to appeal. And that takes some of the anxiety out of it for you. What you're doing is you're laying the groundwork for your appeal in that first hearing. You're going to make sure that you're doing everything you need to in that trial, right? In that hearing, so that when you have to take it to the next level, then you've done your job and you've laid all that foundation, and you can point to all the things that you did and the things that they did wrong and have a much better job of success. So in prior episodes, I had these several slides talking about, okay, so you've decided to stand up for your rights against an overreaching government official or entity, but you don't have an experienced, truly constitutional attorney in your corner. What do you do now? Okay, so I left these slides in here because they go a little bit more into specifics on the who, what, when, where, how, and why of preparing, the kinds of questions that you need to look at. Okay. It's what we just talked about, but it fleshed out in a little bit more detail. And let me, okay. So, Yeah. Okay. So, real quick, Joe pointed out that the Florida oath of office has verbiage that includes "and government." So, in terms of saying you're taking that oath to support and defend the U.S. and state constitutions and government. Yes, I could see where that's something that you'd want to cringe at, but think about it this way. I look at it this way. If I'm taking an oath to support the government of the state of Florida, I'm taking an oath to support the Republican form of government where we, the people, retain ultimate control and authority, where the government has a set of strict limitations put onto it by the Constitution, and they have a very specified set of rules that they have to play by. And that is the constitutional republic that we are defending. We are defending and supporting that constitutional republic where the government doesn't get to do whatever it wants to. So I get how it can be taken to be like, oh, you have to defend, government officials running wild, doing whatever they want to, but don't look at it that way, because true government, it's a Romans 12 or Romans 13. Now I can't remember. At any rate, it's one of the two that I gave a speech on. If you have been following me for quite a few years now, May 15th, the middle of May 18th, I think it was May 18th, 2020, at Rosa Parks Circle in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I talked about the biblical insights on government and how, the Bible instructs us to obey our government, but it actually doesn't say about obeying government, period. It's obeying the proper governmental authority. And the authority stems from we, the people. We, the people, retain ultimate control and authority at every level of government, every branch of government. They report to us. When they don't, they are violating the Constitution. They are no longer properly serving in that role of government, and they should not be and cannot be defended and supported in those actions. So anyway, all right. So, okay. Oh, let's see. Okay. You guys have had a lot of good comments back and oh, great. Lori was able to put on, at least on YouTube and Facebook, it doesn't look like LinkedIn, maybe Twitter. I don't know how many of the destinations we're live streaming to. We're able to get that, but hopefully all of them. But at any rate, I see it on there on YouTube and Facebook that she put the Rosa Parks speech. It's not very long. I guarantee you it's shorter than this episode, but listen to that, because that one, it really helps kind of weave together some of those philosophies and things to think about. Anyway, all right, so doing our homework, researching ahead of time what the procedures are. Next, my point on this is that you need to not be afraid to look at municipal or court websites themselves for how-to kits on representing yourself in these situations. So for example, the Michigan Supreme Court, well, they still do, but the website was changed about a year ago, and now all of my links that I had saved are crap. They're 404 error, right? So I can't provide you any of them. I haven't found all of them yet again, but anyway, they have a lot of how-to kits. If you're representing yourself, they have a lot of how-to kits when it comes to a variety of, landlord-tenant things or other stuff. Sometimes it's your legislature. Actually, I forgot to mention that the Michigan legislature has a lot of different booklets or handbooks on, what the laws are in situations, what the procedures are in certain situations. Your municipal government, their website might itself have something on there, just a little how-to kit, a toolkit on how to represent yourself in those situations. But number one, I want you to not be intimidated by your state statutes. Especially if you don't find any of these how-to kits, right? Whether you do or don't, I want you to not be intimidated by your state statutes. Are there tons of them? Yes. Are there too many of them? 100%. Yes. Far too many. I don't care what state you live in. There are too many state laws on the books. But you need to familiarize yourself with your state statutes table of contents, whether you're going through something like this right now or not. This is something you need to do just so that you know where the law is, how to find it, be more comfortable with it. So when you find yourself in an instant situation, you get pulled over for something, or some law enforcement officer comes to you unexpectedly, and all of a sudden you've got this situation, you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought in a million years I'd find myself in this situation. you need to familiarize yourself with the table of contents for your state statutes, no matter what state you're in, and experiment with searching for keywords. Okay, so I believe, I haven't checked out every single one of the 50 state statutes, but I believe that you, okay. I was wondering what was going on here. Lori is sometimes in the background posting some people's comments to the screen. If I'm not checking in, the comments, as it's happening, on a roll sometimes. Anyway, so Lori has posted one from a Mr. Mike Henry, and his comment on how to do your homework and be prepared to represent yourself is, he says, I also highly recommend marrying an attorney. Gee, honey, I'm already taken off the market. So how many more constitutional attorneys do you think are single and available to be married at this point to help people with their municipal situations? All right. So, what was I going with this? Yes, experiment searching. So I won't go into the boring details, but when I was in law school, we were given free access during that time, just during that time, that's it, to Westlaw, LexisNexis, etc. And so we were given courses, at least back then, I don't know if they still do this or not, but we were given courses on Boolean searches, and I can't even think of what the other, anyway, there's different kinds of searches. And so using key terms or using asterisks at the end of the core, of each word, and all kinds of different things, right? I don't even remember all of that. I would have to dig out my books that are many years old at this point and hope that those still work. But actually, a lot of you who are more into coding or computer things, and a little bit about some of those things, or hey, shoot, do you know how to Google frickin' how do you use search functions, and you should be able to find that. At any rate, experiment with that ahead of time. Don't wait until you're under pressure, but experiment with a few key things like, municipal hearing or ordinance violation. Start with that, and you're going to get a lot. If you search in your state statutes, no matter what state you're in, if you search for ordinance violation, wow, you're going to get a lot. But or none at all. It depends on how strict the confines are of the searching. But just do some searching and get comfortable and familiar with that. So I'm not going to go into detail about these, but I left these slides, and these purple ones are ones that I have left in from prior episodes that I thought you might be finding useful this week as well. So I left in here a starter point for if you live in Florida. These are state statutes that are specifically talking about local government. These are the chapters that I pulled from the full table of contents that are most relevant to local government in state statutes in Florida. And also I pulled the same for Michigan. Again, there's some that apply here and there in other parts of the state statutes, but these are the most prominent ones. And also I left in here the sides where we were talking about your constitutional grounds to legally fight back. Okay, so don't forget about the Constitution, right? It's not just that we, the people, retain ultimate control and authority. No, it's other things like all political power is inherent in the people. Or like in Florida, that we have the basic rights to enjoy and defend life and liberty and possess and protect property. That we have the right to peaceably assemble, instruct our representatives, and petition the government for redress of grievances. This next one is a Florida-specific one, but there's similar ones in other state constitutions as well. Courts shall be, means they have to be, open to every person for redress of injury, and justice shall be administered without sale, denial, or delay. Obviously, we see a lot of that not happening as it should, but that is a guarantee that we have to us, and we have to hold them accountable to this. So anyway, that's doing your homework. Now, rolling up your sleeves. I wish I had, well, I might just show you the screen that you guys are going to look at. But anyway, let's go into this. Rolling up your sleeves. You can't be lackadaisical about preparing for a hearing like this. Even if it's only your municipality you're up against, especially if you're in a small town or, small city or something like that. And you feel like, gosh, this is just, it's a small piddly thing. It's just my local township, right? I live in a small township in Michigan, or, a small city in Florida, or whatever. Don't take it lightly unless you really want to take the deprivation of your rights lightly. If you're going in, go all in. First, you need to have a theory of the case. When you bring a case to court, or you're defending a case, you're telling a story. You're telling a story to the judge, the special magistrate, the jury, whatever person or set of people would be involved in that particular process. This is true whether you're in a criminal defense situation, whether you're in a divorce case, whether you're in a contract dispute, whether you're defending yourself from a municipal ordinance violation hearing. It's the same across the board. You need to have a theory of your case. What does that mean? Well, in my Allegan County case, those of you might know about my election day 2020 Allegan County, Michigan case, where I went to the polls where people were circulating a constitutional amendment petition, just getting signatures outside, of course, of the polls. I went there as the lead attorney for the petition, and I was violently arrested. And I had a case that lasted for 2 freaking years, almost 2 full years. 8 different trial dates. They kept, numerous hearing dates. I appealed interlocutory, or during the time, before the actual trial was done. I did interlocutory appeals several times, all of this costing me thousands of dollars out of pocket just for the court filing fees and transcripts and all that. Okay. My theory of the case was that not only was the violent arrest horribly unconstitutional, but everything the trial judge and the prosecutors were doing to me since then, stopping my husband from coming in the building when I had hearings, not letting the public in the courtroom when I would have hearings, denying me an attorney. They literally threw out my attorney that I brought with me to be assistance of counsel, denying me ADA accommodations, denying press. I had the press show up and try to get in the courtroom, and they denied the press. They denied so many of my rights procedurally as the case went on, let alone denying me a right to a speedy and public trial. But by the time that the first appeal was written in the situation, to get it addressed before they forced me to go all the way through an unconstitutional trial, my theory of the case was that it was a constitutional catastrophe. I use those words throughout. It was a constitutional catastrophe. Why catastrophe? Well, first of all, the alliteration is easier to remember, right? But it was, and I forgot, there's a first part of it, like, oh, they're arguing it's just a parking, a simple parking violation is what the city was arguing, or what the prosecuting attorney was arguing, right? It was a simple parking violation. No. It was a constitutional catastrophe because there's so many parts of the Constitution that were violated in this one case that it couldn't be seen as anything less than a full-blown catastrophe. And so I weaved that theory of the case into every single argument that I made, every single brief, every single motion. Okay, so here in my Ormond Beach fight, right, against the city for the my supposed ordinance violations that we have, the theory of the case in this situation is cherry picking. What do I mean by that? Well, they're choosing which laws that they want to enforce. For example, I already told you guys about how they did not legally serve me. They have subsequently, when I put them on notice and told them repeatedly on the phone with the city attorney directly, as well as in emails where the city attorney was also copied on, I reminded them of the exact subsections of the statute that require them to serve me one of those 2 ways we talked about, and said, okay, well, it's great that you're emailing me. Totally appreciate that you're trying to give me some convenient information about the notices of hearing, etc. But you still have to follow the law. And so they have now done that. Okay. But they still chose, they were cherry picking which ones they wanted to follow. What about which properties? Well, there's certainly cherry picking. There's a huge equal protection violation here. And I can go over all that in just a minute, but they are definitely cherry picking. When I tell you the numbers, the sheer numbers alone that I have been able to prove of all the other similar violations just in my little tiny neighborhood here, it's going to blow your mind. Okay. So my theory on the case is cherry picking, right? I don't know exactly how I want to word it other than cherry picking, but I'm sure I'll have something specific and fancy to say about it. Okay, so Steven on YouTube says, those who wish to be ignorant and free wish for what never was and never will be. Exactly. If you want to have your freedom, you got to be willing to fight for it, which means you first of all have to start by educating yourself on the Constitution, on the law, on the government processes, and you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves. So speaking of rolling up your sleeves, next, you need to get out there and you need to prepare the evidence. Take pictures. Oh, I have plenty. Take video. I have that too. Take detailed notes. Wait till you see mine. Compile all of your records and get them organized. In fact, I actually got to the point where I was so overwhelmed by the amount of violations that I was seeing just by going for nightly walks, okay, or daily walks, right? Mike and I go for a walk. Emma and I will go for a walk. Those of you who are new to me, Emma is my 9-year-old. She's been involved in the freedom fight for a long time. She was there the day of my arrest, unfortunately, but she's also the cute little angelic voice you hear during the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the videos. At any rate, so we'll go for walks. Sometimes I'll go by myself, Anyway, we live in Florida now. We moved here because Michigan weathers suck. Okay, it's the Three Wicked Witches as well, but let's be honest. It's the weather. I was already planning on moving at some point in my life back down to Florida, but to live on the beach, not in Orlando. Ew. Spent 12 years in that prison. But anyway, the beach is phenomenal. Like, we live literally a 5-minute walk to the ocean. I could touch the ocean in just a matter of minutes. Okay, that was one of my requirements, which is why I have a tiny house, because you can't afford very much of a house when you live so close to the ocean. At any rate, so in this little area, we live beachside. We live on a barrier island, basically. So we have the river to one side on the west. We have the ocean to the east. And then that's basically like quarter mile, if that, one direction, quarter mile that direction. And then I chose, let's just go quarter mile south, quarter mile north, right? So in that small little space, that's where I walk. That's where we do these walks most of the time. Sometimes we'll go really, really far down. We'll go down to the, Hard Rock Cafe area, or walk and check out stuff that's going in downtown Daytona, whatever. But this is our daily area. So it was starting to be overwhelming. First, I had a little Google note, and I was just, writing some stuff down. Oh, that their fence is backwards. The city is claiming my fence is backwards, and the fence has to be turned a certain way. Okay, well, these people have their fence backwards. Oh, these people have shipping containers like we do, only theirs are in their freaking front yard. Mine are in my backyard. Oh, these people have pavers that are within 7.5 feet of the property line. The city is claiming I can't have pavers that go up to my property line. I have to have pavers stop 7.5 feet before the property line somehow. Now, mind you, this is not, it's like 1/4 of an acre, right? It's the smallest property we've ever owned. 1/4 of an acre, just over 10,000 square feet. You want me to stop putting my property, or stop using my property 7.5 feet from that side, 7.5 feet from that side, 7.5 feet from that side? Are you nuts? I bought the whole damn thing. I own that, not somebody else, not my neighbors. And what do they care if I'm putting pavers on my property? If I'm not doing it in a way that I'm changing the water drainage, or, somehow destroying the use of their property, what would they care if I have pavers on my property? Everybody beachside has pavers somewhere on your property. Why? Mostly because we have sand and sand spurs. That's it. We don't really grow grass here, because it's a beach. It's a beach community. So, if you can't grow grass, you got to combat and have other ways to do things, right? So, all right, guys, I'm going to give you an example. This is where to go. I have to find the, all right. I will pull this up for you. right, I might have to make it a little bit smaller. Okay. Here we go. All right. This is what I made. I made a spreadsheet, okay? And I know that this is where some of you who are going to be listening later on the podcasting platforms are going to have a little bit harder of a time, but I will be sharing this in one way, shape, or form so you can check this out. But this is just an example, okay? I literally made a spreadsheet where I put in here, there's three main areas that they're coming after me, right? They're coming after my sheds, right? My shipping containers. And my pavers or the parking area. There's certain, rules about putting pavers down or, improving your or extending your parking area or whatever for your vehicles. And then fence. There's a lot of different provisions on fences, right? Those are the main things here. All right. And then sometimes there are just extensive repairs being done without they're mad because I didn't get permits, but they're saying that they wouldn't issue the permits anyway. So anyway, I put in here all the extensive remodeling I've seen just in this small little tiny area where there's been remodeling. In fact, I gotta share this. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I'm sharing 3 things on this one little screen. So give me a second here. All right. Stretching that out a little bit more for you guys. Okay. So let's scroll down here. So this little area on the screen, that's where I was talking about. We have the river on the one side. We have the ocean on the other side, this way and this way. That's it. That's the small little tiny area. So yeah, it's not even as wide as it is tall. Okay. But roughly a quarter of a mile in any direction. Not very far at all. Now, if you look at the entire city, this is the entire city limits. There's a lot of different carve-outs, totally ridiculous gerrymandering. I don't know what they were doing, but it's ridiculous. Anyway, so this is the city limits. And then we're just one little tiny speck that's right where my cursor is right here. It's super small comparatively, right? Okay, so given that, let's look at the this list. So just in that small little area, right? Then I put on here, what are the main things that they're trying to say for me? And this is something you can do for yourself, right? I'm going to share my little setup here, like I said, later, but I'm giving you these details because it's something you can do and you don't have to be an attorney. Well, what are they saying to me? The woman said to me on the phone in September, after a neighbor complained, who can't even see my house and the pavers and all that from her property, mind you. And she's a renter. She's not even an owner. At any rate, okay, so they said that, parking, right? My pavers and my parking area is a no-go, right? Okay, well, in the city of Ormond Beach, you can't park on grass. You have to park on a specific improved type of surface. There's like 5 different surfaces that they've named. But how many people do you think in my neighborhood park on the grass? Well, considering that some of the houses not only don't have garages because they're built in 1949, but they don't even have parking areas, paved, concrete, whatever, driveways or anything. There's quite a few people that park on the grass. And even where you have paved driveways, a ton of people still park on the grass anyway because they have lots of vehicles or they just like their driveway open. Also, they said, hey, you can't have, and these are things you might want to check out at your own municipality. They said you can't have your pavers or your parking, improvements within 7.5 feet of the property line. Do you know how many parking areas, pavers or poured concrete or whatever, just in my tiny little quarter mile this way, quarter mile that way, sampling, where people have their parking areas within 7.5 feet of the property line? Lots. What about fences? So they said that, my fence has to be a certain way and they don't like the framing is the way it is. Okay, well, how about if you're going to enforce fence ordinances, how about you have to enforce the part where it says dilapidated fences have to be fixed. You cannot have a dilapidated fence in the city of Ormond Beach according to their unconstitutional ordinances, right? But if we're going to use them, we're going to use them. We're going to use them across the board. What about fences that were erected with no permit? Yeah, so they're saying mine, well, hey, it needs a permit and I didn't do that, and my, I did it in the wrong way. It's on my own property. Okay, it's all on my own property. And the hurricane didn't take it down. We had 2 freaking huge hurricanes hammering us just north of Daytona Beach this last year. And my fence that I designed and built with my husband, it stayed up when you have all these professional fence companies with their pieces, AAA fence and all these other ones where their pieces are just all over the place. Restaurants and hotels and residences alike, all up and down beachside in our whole county. Fences to this day, a lot of them are still just demolished, right? Okay, mine still standing. Not a piece of it, not one single piece of it fell down or broke off with the hurricanes, okay? But anyway, I just had all these different things, right? So they're saying my shipping containers can't be within 7.5 feet of the property line. They're on the property line. They can't be within 7.5 feet of the property. Why? Okay. How many other people do you think have their shipping containers or their sheds within 7.5 feet of the property line? Well, let me tell you, just in the things, this is not every single violation that's known to mankind under this code. These are just the violations they're claiming against me. I said, okay, fine. If we're going to say that you have, if you had the right to enforce these regulations upon me, these specific ones, we're going to turn that lens around and see how many other neighbors have these exact same things that 99% of which you can see from walking on the sidewalk. Right? I didn't go onto people's properties. I didn't say, hey, can I check out your backyard and see what you're doing? Some of them you could see right on Google Maps. You could see where their shed or their garage or whatever is literally sitting on the property line. Okay. All right, so I put the house number, I put the street, I have a drop down I made for myself. Any special notes like, let's see here. How about this property where an Ormond Beach, city of Ormond Beach work van parks there daily and they have ordinance violations. Or, let's see. This one where a Volusia County council member has, they live there. They actually have council member parking or commissioner parking, whatever they had. They used to be a city council. It's city commission here. I have to remember terms are different. But anyway, they served on the city board before. And so they have city commission member parking only by their pavers. They're that full of themselves. But now they serve on the county board. Well, they have at least 3 violations that I could see from walking on the sidewalk. Okay. This is all just within my little quarter mile. What about the state law enforcement truck that parks in front of this house that has violations? Or let's see. You might be picking up on the fact that, anyway, there's an old Ormond Beach Police Department building. The building has been demolished, but the concrete is still paved there. It's still within 7.5 feet of the property line. And the city attorney themselves, the city attorney's office has a dirt or grass driveway and parking area. Lo and behold, and they have 2 buildings, sheds or whatever, that are on the north property line. Isn't that crazy? So as long as you are a city worker, Ormond Beach police officer, city attorney, state law enforcement, sheriff, county sheriff office, whatever, as long as you fall into one of those categories, then you're fine having your violations. This is just within a quarter mile of my house, guys. Okay. At any rate, yes, I started to have fun. And then I told them, if I remember to check the box, I told them which ones I took pictures of, which ones you can clearly see from Google Maps. At any rate, so yeah, I have this whole thing. And by the way, why did I have to have this spreadsheet? In case you haven't seen how I'm scrolling up and down tons, it's because there's 805, if you minus the one line at the top for the headings, 804 violations. 804 in a quarter-mile radius of my house, just for the same violations that they're claiming that I have. At any rate, have fun with it. Okay, so let's see. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing that one. Go back to our, I have to find where I put it. Sorry guys. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, here we go. So keep it organized. That was organized. You could see what I mean by compiling all of your records and getting them organized. I plan to actually integrate that spreadsheet into my response, again, my next response to the city for this upcoming hearing, which, by the way, is next Monday, supposedly starting at 10 a.m., but who knows how many cases they have called. Anyway, rolling up your sleeves. Use whatever resources you have at your disposal. Some of you may prefer to head to a local law library or government office that has legal records and property records available to the public. Do that. If you have that ability, if you have the time, if your work schedule allows that, whatever, do that. Utilize whatever free resources are available to you. But most of you who run quite busy lives probably have no choice other than to utilize the free resources available to you on the internet. Given that, do not underestimate the power of free tools like Google Maps, Google Scholar, and Google searches for county property records, okay? I can't tell you how many times I used Google Maps to simply be able to pull up the addresses and go, yep, let me just double check this, or gosh, let me see. You could see some of them are as plain as day. If you could see that the poor driveways are clearly touching from one property to another, they're going up to the property line. You might not know where the property line is, but clearly they're touching. Then you have at least both of those houses that are supposedly violating that ordinance, saying you can't have your concrete poured within 7.5 feet of your property line, right? Google Maps can help you a lot. Google Scholar, Google or search, DuckDuckGo, whatever you want to use, Google Scholar. It is a free resource where you can pull up virtually any case, and I'll probably do a short tutorial on it. I've talked about it in the past briefly in prior episodes from last season, but you can search, narrow it down to whatever state you're in. It's available for Florida, it's available for Michigan, it's available for California, Texas, New York, Rhode Island, Minnesota, whatever. You can narrow it down by Court of Appeals or Supreme Court, or if it's specific to a certain kind of court like bankruptcy court, you can narrow it down that way. You can narrow it down to talk about or look up the just the cases from the United States Supreme Court. You can keyword search, talk about certain key terms that you'd like to talk about or see in a case. But you can also search for a particular case name if you already have an idea of what you're looking for. They're free resources. Much as so many freedom fighters are so sick of everything that Google and the big monster that has become is doing, utilize what free tools you do have available, okay? Rolling up your sleeves. Remember, visuals are important. When you're representing yourself in a criminal case, in an ordinance violation hearing, in any kind of other case, visuals are important. Judges and magistrates are just people too. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. Do not underestimate that. Even attorneys take that for granted. Last year, sometime, I think it might have been the April or March issue of the Michigan State Bar Journal had an article all just about that. And when you're doing briefs and submitting documents to court, how judges really can value when somebody properly uses pictures or graphics. In fact, use a chart or a graph if it would be helpful. Include photos in your written response. Okay, I did that. You guys already have a copy. If you go to my website, we'd already shared last year, the initial response I did to the city that I served on them on election day 2022. And a lot happens on election day in my life. But anyway, so yeah, take a look at that. You'll see, and that's really a rough draft. I mean, I put the substance in there and I didn't care about formatting and all that other stuff. That's the worst formatted response that I've ever had. There's probably a few typos, but you could see the general idea of how I used the photos and how I was demonstrating, hey, there's these other issues and you're not worrying about that, but you're going to try to come after me and only me on these issues. I don't think so. Submit things ahead of time. Why is this important? You might not be required to submit your responses ahead of time, especially in criminal proceedings, but submit them ahead of time. Find some way to get your written information, your pictures, your graphs, all of that in front of the decision maker ahead of time so they cannot shut you down too quickly during your hearing, for example, and say, oh, we're running out of time, or, whatever, where a judge just talks over you, doesn't let you speak, or whatever the case may be, and then claim that, well, gee, if you try to appeal, hey, you didn't bring that up at the appropriate time at the hearing below, right? During your, I can't talk today, your municipal ordinance violation hearing with your special magistrate, you didn't bring up this issue or that issue or this evidence or that evidence. So, you can't just bring it up for the first time on appeal later on. That's a pretty common rule. If you have evidence, if you have an argument that you want to make at any stage of the case, you have to bring it up at the initial hearing, at your trial, at your, that first instance before you go to the next higher court and try to appeal something. Otherwise, you are probably going to be stopped from bringing it up later on appeal. Why? Think about it this way. It's a fairness thing that you want applied the other way around too. You don't want the prosecutor or the other side, whoever it might be, it could be a civil case. You don't want the other side to be able to withhold bringing evidence or, legal arguments in, and then they lose. And so they file this appeal and say, wait a second, but what about all this evidence? And you're like, whoa, we're basically going to redo the trial. If you had evidence, you needed to bring it up during the trial. You can't bring it up on appeal. So it's a fairness of procedure kind of thing. Somebody has, okay, Joe is asking on Facebook, I don't know if he's talking to me or because there was a lot of conversation going back and forth amongst yourselves in each of the social media platforms, but Joe is asking, will you be running for office? I will do whatever God has called me to do. I didn't want to run for state rep in Michigan many years ago, but I did. And I didn't want to run for Georgetown Township trustee, but someone wanted me to be part of a slate, a team of freedom fighters that could help bring back our township. And so I did, and I didn't even campaign, and I won. And I served as trustee until I moved. I didn't want to serve as anything in the Michigan Republican Party, let alone be on the 2nd District MIGOP board or be on the state committee for the Michigan Republican Party. But when I was asked by another friend who's a freedom fighter, who's also now down here in Florida, when I was asked by her to join her slate of freedom fighters to take back the Republican Party one little bit at a time, I said, okay. And, didn't door knock, didn't send out flyers or anything like that, but I also won that race. And so I served as Michigan state committee woman for the Michigan Republican Party before I came down here. Whatever God is calling me to do, I will do. I really don't want to run for office again. I would rather empower all of you in all of your states, in all cities, in all municipalities across the country to run for office yourself, to take back government. I need to leave a legacy of freedom behind, and empowering you guys to do that is probably going to be the best way. Now, if I could somehow get positioned to be president and I could dismantle all of the, executive branch agencies that exist, hey, I would take that opportunity. If I could serve then on the United States Supreme Court and blaze a trail of freedom that way and clear up horribly bad precedent and put them all back in check, hey, I'd be willing to do that as well. Whatever God is calling me to do. So at any rate, let's see. Yes. Okay. So this is somebody responding to my talk about my list and all that, the 804 other violations in a quarter-mile radius of my house for the same exact issues that the city's coming after me for. He said that list that list sort of proves they are singling you out. And that's exactly my point, is that it's an equal protection issue, that they are cherry picking. All right. Right. Okay, bringing it back to the theme of the case. Well, they're cherry picking. They're deciding which people to go after, which ordinances to follow, which laws about serving, the documents, etc. The whole thing is about cherry picking. So I'm going to file a response that really hammers that theme home and utilizes graphics and pictures and charts to show exactly how that theme is happening. So thank you for Kyle on YouTube for bringing that up. And Liberty Lori is in the background commenting on, at least this was on YouTube. She commented that I was arrested and then elected in 2020. I think I am still, perhaps, maybe, at least as of 2020, I was the only person in U.S. history on record to be arrested and then elected to office the same day. Yes, that is right. I was arrested and then elected to office on the same day. What a day that was in 2020. So, Joe apparently is in Ormond. Well, if I've met you, I'm sorry that I'm not making the connection. If I haven't, but I would love to meet you in person soon. But he says there's an open seat for state rep in 2024. Please tell me that's not because Leak is going to be running for state senate, because he doesn't seem to follow the Constitution. So anyway, I will do whatever God is calling me. I already had somebody tell me, who's actually not on our Lori, you're going to have to text the Liberty Cause and see where he is, because I was talking to him this morning about things. But he's someone who's told me I need to run for sheriff down here. I don't know that I'd want to do that, but hey, whatever God's calling me to do, I'm going to do. All right. So hopefully, if you guys don't have any, Joe on Facebook, you're killing me. I don't want to hear that a supposedly constitutional conservative state rep is already filed for state senate in the next go round. That is bad. And writes on in, I love your profile image there of, it looks like the flag. Anyway, asking, was I arrested in a restaurant? I was not arrested in a restaurant. I was arrested on public property open to the general public during the course of business hours on election day. It was the parking lot of a library and of a town hall where voting was happening, and I was there as the attorney for other people who were being threatened with arrest. And I showed up simply to talk to the deputies about the laws involved, so they would not illegally and unconstitutionally arrest the other individuals. And instead, they refused to talk to me, knowing I was coming to talk to them. They refused to talk to me and just arrest me instead. Wasn't that fun? All right. So, and Joe on Facebook, I wish they'd arrest every person who gets elected. They actually, if it were the other way around, being elected and then arrested for doing bad things. All right. So, it's very important to lay that groundwork for appeal, though. So that is the last point I wanted to say on that. Rolling up your sleeves. Remember, when you're fighting for your freedom, remember, this is a hard one. It's going to seem obvious. You're going to say, well, how do you just do that? But don't be nervous. Do not be nervous. Your anxiety will derail the best of preparations. If you do all this preparing and you research and you have facts and figures and charts and graphs and laws and everything at your fingertips, and you're like, gosh, I should certainly win this, but you get in there and you're all flustered and you're worried about the process, and you see the prosecutor in their suit or the special magistrate in their suit or their robe or whatever, and all these other people, and there's witnesses, and who knows, maybe there's press there, I have no idea. Whatever, you just feel so overwhelmed by the process. Do not let anxiety control you. All of these government officials work for you, not the other way around. They work for you. They're dressing up because they owe you that respect. They need to look the part because they owe you the respect. You are their boss. They're reporting for duty that day at work, and you need to walk in there like a boss who's running a business meeting. You are educating your employees on the procedures required and laying out your clear expectations. I'm going to walk in there informing, educating the prosecutor, the city officials, the neighborhood improvement division, the special magistrate. I'm going to walk in there like I own the place. I'm going to walk in there like a boss, as a citizen owner, as a friend of mine talks about, a citizen owner. I'm going to walk in there as a member of the general public, we the people, from this Republican form of government that we have, and I'm going to go and instruct my officials, my government, on what's supposed to happen, lay out the expectations, and tell them what they need to do. Now, is that going to necessarily work at that stage? Who knows? What did I say earlier? You need to walk in there prepared to lose that first round. Be prepared to appeal. What is one of the things that's going to help the most with that, though? You need to garner enough support. I have asked members of the 1A community and beyond, just general freedom fighters. I haven't met a whole lot of people down here yet because, well, we go home, we go to church, I work from home. Yeah, that's it. I walk on the beach. We go to the YMCA to do Zumba classes with Emma and that kind of thing. There's just not a lot of people that I've met. So it's hard to garner support sometimes. Sometimes you live in a remote area or a rural area, and maybe, it might be a season where, not right now in Michigan, but, if this were, August in Michigan, you might be dealing with farmers that, can't come out and help you or support you because they're busy, or it's usually a 9-to-5 type of hearing, and maybe too many people just work 9-to-5 shifts and they can't take time off of work to come help you. But do your best to get supporters there. Get support ahead of time. Maybe there's a social media campaign that you could start utilizing. I know with the Allegan County case, that has helped immensely. It's come in waves throughout different times where people were commenting on all the social media of Allegan County, their prosecutor, their sheriff's department, etc. Every post they were making, people were referencing my case and how the deputies are violating and the prosecutors are violating the Constitution and the law, and they need to be held accountable to violating their oath of office, etc. It does something. They're listening. They're seeing that. You might not realize it, but the more it happens, the more effective it can be. So, and that can happen even if people aren't physically in your area, right? You could be a keyboard warrior and support other people who aren't close physically to you, but get people at your hearing. Get people there, get people on board if it's by Zoom, which it should never be. Otherwise, if it's in person, like mine is this coming Monday, February 27th. Again, it supposedly starts at 10, but I don't know if my particular hearing starts at 10, so I'm prepared to stay there for a while. But February 27th, starting at 10 o'clock at the Ormond Beach City Hall. In Ormond Beach, Florida. So if you're anywhere in the country or in the world hearing this, this is an invitation for you to come and support me at that hearing. And what I'm asking people to do, hey, if you already have a Restore Freedom shirt, wear one. If you want to buy one at cost from me, I have them. Let me know. Otherwise, wear something that shows freedom. Wear your Don't Tread on Me, or something with the American flag, or wear whatever you want. But I'm going to say it's going to be most effective if they look out and immediately know, oh yeah, well, yep, they're wearing the American flag, or they have a Restore Freedom shirt, they have a Don't Tread on Me. Yeah, they're probably a fan of the Constitution. They're probably here to support this particular situation. So garner support. Those of you who think it doesn't matter, it does. It really does. Especially in the end, when you're dealing with elected officials, it does. But even if you're in the meantime dealing with people that are not elected, sorry, just noticed something. I'm not sure if Lori, you're able to catch it. If you could catch up with Pikachu Plaza. Somebody said they messaged me on Instagram. I post on Instagram. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know how to check messages on there. That's not the best way to reach us, but Liberty Lori, I'm sure we'll be able to connect with you there. You're on YouTube, I see right now. You can always check out our website and find other ways to communicate with us, our email and that kind of thing. So, all right, so I forgot my train of thought here. So I left in here constitutional grounds for instructing our representatives. Why? Well, it's a slide I've had in here before. It has all, the basic points from the Michigan and Florida constitutions. I threw a little bit of the U.S. Constitution in there, but it appears in, like, for example, you have the right to peaceably assemble. That is obviously protected by the U.S. Constitution as well, but I ran out of room on that line, so I didn't reference it there. At any rate, this is just a starting point, because what if you are one of those supporters? What if you are someone who shows up to support at one of these hearings, and it's especially if it's an administrative hearing or a semi-judicial, quasi-judicial hearing, right? It's not really a fully functioning courthouse type of deal. You need to be able to recognize and cite for them how all political power is inherent in the people. You have the right to peaceably assemble, instruct your representatives, petition the government for redress of grievances, that you have access as a member of the general public to public records and meetings, that you have the right to free speech and press. And you have the right, as we the people, to retain ultimate control and authority over the government. So if they try to stop you from going in there to support another person in their own freedom fight, then you have grounds to fight back and say, no, I don't think so. You can't say that I can't be in there. I'm a member of whatever. I'm a member of the press. I'm going to be sharing this. Do you have to sign up ahead of time? Most of them try to play some sort of game like that. But the First Amendment is pretty damn clear. You have the right, even just as a general member of the public, to be there. All right, so true or false, you cannot appeal from municipal ordinance violation hearings. Their decisions are final. Now, this week, I actually didn't point blank give you the answer during our Tuesday's Restore Freedom Weekly full episode here. I've only kind of alluded to it. I've told you that you need to do your own homework. And somebody from California has decided to join the conversation. Sorry, apparently my do not disturb ended already on my phone. But at any rate, I told you, you have to do the homework and understand what the procedures and policies and know about appeals and all that. And you still do. And I'm still suggesting that you do so. But make sure that, again, if you want to answer the true or false question of the week, that you participate in, I can't even talk, on Telegram. And the link was already shared earlier in the comments here for today's video, or on YouTube in the YouTube community part where I do postings and things like that. The poll is available on both of those platforms, Telegram and YouTube. So jump on there and do that. Keep in mind that you'll want to check back at 10 o'clock tonight for the answer. That is where we will be posted. I'll give you a hint. There's a little bit of due process of law involved there. And so I left the portions of the U.S., Michigan, and Florida constitutions talking about due process. I also, for those of you who are new to the channel and did not catch or know about my speech that I gave at the Volusia County Legislative Delegation meeting last month, I left in my 3-minute speech there with a 3-minute back and forth afterwards. So total, it's a 6-minute video, but I left that so that you can utilize those words in dealing with your own legislative bodies or any government official. Remind them what their oath of office is and what it's not. And if you're looking for the transcript, so to speak, from that speech, it's available right on the website. You can just go in our search box to type in legislative delegation or Volusia County legislative delegation or any of that stuff combination. You'll be able to see it. It was right around, I think, January 9th. But anyway, you'll be able to see the document itself and the video of the speech and see how to deliver it, I guess. So anyway, if you are looking for more information, please check back tomorrow for a post. We have posts on a variety of social media platforms. Somebody earlier mentioned Instagram or on Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram, Truth Social, We posted on YouTube, Facebook. I can't remember any other places. Of course, our own website on the updates tab. But there'll be the Wednesday Way to Get Involved challenge. And this one I really want you to do. It's going to be simple, but I just really want you to do it to be able to empower yourself ahead of time rather than waiting until you absolutely need it. And some of you are already at that stage of absolutely needing some of these skills and knowledge. Check back on Thursday. We'll have that Constitution segment recap video. It's 10 minutes or less. Sometimes I have to speed talk like it's going out of style or like I'm selling micro machines in the 1990s on TV commercials. But that Constitution segment recap video is 10 minutes or less and goes on a variety of platforms beyond what this particular video is live streamed to today. So check those out as well. And of course, our freedom fighting tools on Friday will be shared with you in a post format with links, as always, on all those platforms I mentioned earlier. And Saturday, we have the Restore Freedom Goodie of the Week. I'm going to give you a hint. If you love this episode and want to see it continue, if you love the concept of the way I'm trying to teach you guys ways to fight for your own freedom and not rely on attorneys or government officials or politicians to do what they're supposed to be doing, then please consider supporting our Restore Freedom Weekly episodes and take a look on Saturday for our video, our 60-second video that'll tell you how you can do just that. So, Lori, I'm going to, let's see, throw you back in here. Oh, no, I didn't. What did I do? Did it work? Okay. Lori, are there any comments or questions that I need to address that I didn't address yet today?
Not specifically, but I did want to let you know the Liberty Cause did pop in for a minute.
1 minute.
He was
well,
busy.
he's on my list.
Probably a few minutes.
You guys know what list that is. At any rate. All right. So, yes, thank you so much for joining us today. Please make sure to join us on all those segments I mentioned. Like I said, if you have at any way, shape, or form the ability to try to join us on Monday at the Ormond Beach City Hall, Monday morning starting at 10 o'clock for this coming Monday for my own freedom fight and paving the way for other people to do it, please join. Could you imagine if we packed the building with 100 people or 1,000 people? Could you imagine the power that would show? Because how many people do you really think can afford to have an attorney represent them? If they were doing this hard of work, if I was doing this kind of work, looking at every single state statute, reading every single portion of the land development code here in the city of Ormond Beach, looking at the state constitution, doing the groundwork, right? Doing the research on finding all the other violations and putting it together in a response that's coherent. If I put this many hours into somebody else's case, even if it was $100 an hour, it'd be over $20,000 at this point. And no attorney is going to do that kind of work at certainly not a good job of it at $100 an hour. No, you're talking $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 an hour easy to do this kind of work. Could you imagine? No one's going to spend $100,000 or $200,000 fighting the city in this way. No, help me to pave the way in this example, in this case, my very own case, so we can pave the way for others. And can you imagine the kind of attention that this would get if we're able to make this go viral? Because we're going to either live stream it or post it later. But if we could show that 100 or 1,000 people showed up in support of this, could you imagine? People there to support the Constitution, to defend our God-given liberties. Could you imagine the impact? And if news media outlets would pick that up, or even just the social media platforms alone, if it goes viral in that way, I mean, shoot, the Harvey Freebird that shared the video of my arrest just recently when I'm shadow banned on platforms, but he shared the video of my arrest in a 28-minute version on his own channel. He has 65,000 followers, something like that. Last I heard is that video, which was posted like 3 weeks ago now, that video has something like 1.2 million views of me. A video, 1.2 million views. And this is 2 years later, 2.5 years later. Could you imagine the impact that we could make on showing those government officials across the nation, hey, people are starting to work together. The grassroots is pissed off and they're coming for you. We're going to work together to fight back. Can you imagine what we could accomplish? So at any rate, it might seem like a simple little municipal hearing and it's no big deal to fight it. And I obviously can do it on my own. I'm going to fight it whether you guys are there or not. But let's make this something that doesn't just impact or benefit me. Let's make this something that can be used to fight for freedom for all of you all across the country. Let's do that. All right.
I want to throw in that it's these little fights that people didn't have previously that have allowed government to grow as big as it has. If people would have fought instead of just like, oh, it's not worth it, we wouldn't be in this situation we're in.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. So, all right. Yes. And we need to make them fear for their next election, as Melanie on YouTube points out. And Kyle, thank God Catherine is on top of this. We all get better. So, yes, we need to work together. We absolutely need to do that. So if you can make sure to hit us up on all of our social media platforms, hit that like button, the subscribe, the share button, sign up for notifications, whatever platform you're watching us on right now or listening later on. Make sure you're hitting that button, whatever it may look like, to actually receive the notifications when we have a new episode posted or we go live or we have something that is shared with you. Please take a look at that. I do all this work for free. Nobody's paying me. Liberty Lori does this for free. Mike does this for free. We're paying out of our own pocket, actually, to bring all this information to you and do all this work for you every single day, every single topic. So please help at the very least by sharing the word, sharing that message, sharing is love on social media, right? Especially when the mainstream media wants no part in the typical Constitution defending freedom fight. So anyway, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Have an absolutely wonderful afternoon.